That is how I produced 95% of the content in the book. So I'd keep that in mind as you read it, because I found it quite interesting to do it this way. And not just interesting, liberating, because like I alluded to a second ago, I find it quite difficult to write the quote unquote normal way. So I found my way. And I would encourage you listening. I know many of you have either works you've already completed or works you wish to share with the world in book format, ready to go. And maybe you have the same limiting beliefs as me. Maybe you have the same challenges as me. So instead of following the normal way, I would encourage you to find your way. Welcome, beautiful beings, to season 2 of the Cosmic Love Antenna podcast with your host, Harrison Ma. This podcast sets the loving intention of creating the mystical space needed to pull back the layers restricting health, alignment, and love. Now let's walk you home to your cosmic spiritual heart space. Good evening, morning, afternoon, beautiful beings. Welcome back to the show and welcome back to another Solo-sode with your host, Harrison. Today's conversation has a lot of love and exciting, expanding, loving energy to share with you, because today's show is just with me, as the Solo-sode implies, but today's topic is Your Cosmic Love Antenna, the book. To be more specific, Your Cosmic Love Antenna, define, embody, and emit your unique frequency of love. And this is my first publication and gift of this kind. And I'm really honored and grateful to get to share it with the world. And in today's episode, in this chat, from my heart to yours, I am going to share a little bit around the book, my inspiration, some of the contents to get you hooked to it already, and some of the experience that I went through in the writing of it. Before I do get to all of that, as always, here on the show, remember that the intention of these solo-sodes are to get a little bit more intimate with you, to go deeper into a particular topic, that topic today being the book that I am sharing with the world. If this discussion, if there are some gems and insights and there's some value that hits your heart, remember there are 2 ways that you can support the show and me. One is by sharing it out to a friend, a family member, and a lover that you think it can support. And 2 is heading over to Spotify and Apple and leaving your feedback and perspectives. As I just outlined, to go a little bit deeper, today I'm going to really dive into what the book is going to cover. I'm going to share my intention and my love around the book, why it exists. And I'm also going to share my experience with the writing process. And I think you'll find it very interesting. So make sure you stick to the end to hear that piece of it. As always here on these solo shows, before I get into the depth of the chat today, I want to share a review from the lovely audience, the tribe that is you listening. This review and feedback for the show is from the lovely Etain. Etain was just a guest on the show, the previous episode when this podcast airs, when this episode airs. And Etain leaves the following: what an amazing podcast. I love this show. Harrison has an amazing grounding energy and is very gifted in guiding listeners to discover wisdom and insights to the variety of topics on this show. We are in exciting timelines and times of awakening and a co-creation I am so grateful to have come across this podcast and to be a part of. Sending love, Etain. Thank you for your beautiful words. And I send out gratitude for all the lovely reviews that have already been sent and are coming in the timelines in the future. I appreciate your love, and it really reminds me of the impact of this show. So Thank you for the words and keep them coming. So now let's get into the crux of this show. And I want to begin by explaining my why and my inspiration for the book. And maybe if you're listening to this far down in the future, you already have it and you have it in your hand. So feel these words, whether it's now or in the future, and see how it feels with the book that you have. So the why and the description and the outline for the book is as follows, and this is on the back of the cover. Your Cosmic Love Antenna is a compassionate and instructional exploration into what love means for any individual who decides to take the journey of reading its pages. It is a deep spiritual reflection on how to then fully start embodying, sharing, and emitting that frequency of love with the collective outside of oneself, and why this is ultimately so important right now in the world that has never needed it more. And that expression there matches the labor of love and the channel of frequency that this book is. My inspiration and my main intention was to really describe the what, the how, and the why of spiritual cosmic love. And I think I achieved that. I'll let you be the judge. But with all modesty and ego aside, after the whole process was complete, and even now as I reflect here in this moment with all of you, I'm very proud and very, very honored to be the soul that can share this gift with all of you, because I feel the way that I went through the book and was able to share it with you in the way that I did, and I'll explain that a bit more later because it's very interesting. I think I landed the plane. One of my other inspirations for writing the book was all of you. And what I mean by that is each episode I do here on the show, each live appearance I do on social media, each coaching session one-on-one, each interaction I have with someone I'm aiming to support, help, guide, love, etc. Each interaction in relationship brings out more in me, specifically brings out more of the truth that needs to be heard in relation to this book. So part of the inspiration was all of you just being you and bringing out my light. My light was always there, but in the act of service and relationship that all of you provide in the many forms that it's provided in has allowed me to express that light in the way it is doing so in the book. With all of that, it also highlights my desire of bringing it all together. What I mean by that is, on this show, I've spoken about a lot of topics within this cosmic love umbrella and this spiritual, mystical umbrella. And one of the inspirations and intentions was to bring it all into one cohesive discussion, one cohesive channel, stream of frequency. And again, from my perspective, mission accomplished. I also wanted an easy option for those who wanted to go deep, that maybe didn't want to do coaching, maybe didn't want to listen to all the podcast episodes and maybe learn in the way of reading. Because we're all unique and we all expand and heal and transform in our own unique way. So I wanted to have another way, another option, another channel of support for you to soak up a lot of the teachings that I like to express. And then finally, the last piece of inspiration and intention for this book was a beautiful tool and piece of art that I can now point to as a place to tune into what my heart's frequency currently is. And that will always be changing. But for a while, this book will hold a lot of what my heart is wanting to share in the world in this current timeline, in this current existence. So this is now another piece of the Harrison puzzle that all of you can use to not only know more and learn more about what I teach and what I'm all about, but also to help you fill in your puzzle pieces, to help you come back to your mystical space of cosmic love. So those are my inspirations and intentions for the book. That's my why, the outline that I described. What I want to do now is give you a little snippet of the flow of the book and some of the themes discussed to get you excited. And I'm going to speak about this later, but at the time of this recording, you can pre-order the book, and I'll put a link in the description, but it's called, if you go to cosmicloveantenna.com, you can pre-order the book and get on the list. I'll speak about more of that at the end. But the main flow of the book will be as follows. I start the book with a overview of the framework or the flow of the book. And the flow of the book is under a theme and topic, if you want to call it that, of mind, body, soul synchronizing. Mind, body, soul synchronizing. And what I mean by this is your beautiful love frequency, the cosmic love antenna that you are, and the frequency that moves through it is optimized and embodied and emitted and shared through the synchronizing of your mind, body, and soul, your mind, body, and spirit. And I break up the book into these 3 sections. I also talk about, within these 3 sections, the emotions that move through them. So it's not just mind, body, and soul, soul/spirit. I use those 2 words interchangeably throughout the book. But the emotions I also refer to throughout the book as the emotional bridge. The emotions connect the mind to the body. The emotions connect the body to the soul/spirit. So this is one of the main themes and threads you'll see throughout the reading, is this synchronizing and harmonizing these parts of your holistic being together with the goal of switching on that cosmic love antenna that you are and emitting that frequency of love. So that's the first piece to understand as you go into the book, and I describe that within the pages. Then once that's set, I break the book down. Break it down into those 3 sections, mind, body, and soul. The first section being mind, 3 chapters. And the first of which I think none of you will be surprised. The first chapter is called Holding the Inner Child. And in said chapter, through the mental perspective, the mind perspective, I go into the role of the inner child in this discussion of the cosmic love antenna and your love frequency. Don't just talk about it. I share with love a lot of practical tips and tools and understandings to help you go deeper into inner child healing. And why is it relevant? Why is it important? If you've listened to the many shows I've done on this podcast, you know the answer to that. But the book summarizes, outlines, and again, gives practical ways to start using it in your love life. Chapter number 2 is the ancestral breaker of chains. Again, another theme that you have most likely already tuned into here within the cosmic love antenna. And again, talking about the role of ancestral healing, why it's so important not just through your mental scape, but on the road back to your deeper states of cosmic love. Sharing practices, tools, but also, and this is the same for the inner child and all subsequent chapters, my personal experience, a lot of my story, and the meanness, the I-ness, the Harrison flair within the ancestral healing conversation. Chapter 3, within the mind section, is your healthy ego, the healthy ego, my healthy ego, all of our healthy egos. And this is really a discussion, tools, practices, deep dive into coming back to a healthy ego. Most of us have an unhealthy ego. There's no surprise. But what is a healthy ego and how do we do it? And why is it relevant to this love conversation? That's what I go into. Section 2 is the body. And the body, again, is broken down into 3 separate chapters. First of which is the 3D tells a story. Many of you have most likely heard me speak and reference books such as The Body Keeps Score, When Your Body Says No. You understand that your tissues hold your issues, or the body tells the story of your life. This is really what I go into from my experience, my perspective, and my deep spiritual understanding around the role of how the 3D here meaning your physical body, not just holds on to the story of your life, but is the gateway to releasing and healing and accessing deeper states of your love frequency, and why we cannot ignore it. And here is another example. So between the mind and the body, the emotions, again, are the bridge, and the emotions are often what is stored in the 3D telling a story. The story aspect of the body keeping score is your emotions. It's thoughts too, but in my experience, it's mostly for a lot of people, more of the emotions. So an example of the emotional bridge here, connecting it to the mind and the body. Next chapter is your physical pillar. The intention of this part of the book is to go into the need and necessity and the deeper understanding of the physical component of your cosmic love antenna. Why we need to cherish and love on the physical being that you are to optimize our love frequency. Another way of describing this as a summary of this part of the book, your soul and spirit live in the human temple. And this temple needs to be not just kept, but ideally we want to nourish it to help us expand our love frequency and optimize the antenna that we are. So that is really the deeper intention of your physical pillar. Give you tips, tools, practices, understandings, my own experience with it to do just that. And then the last chapter of the body section is your chakra gateways. So once again, another theme here on the podcast. But if you're new, I see the chakras as that, as gateways, as openings to not just this synchronizing of your mind, body, and soul, but deeper aspects of yourself to connect into that love frequency that you are. And I talk about why this is important, what we can do, once again, tools, practices, but also understanding it. And there are many books, many courses, many teachings out there on the chakras. And I'd recommend you read all that resonate. But if you've listened to the show and heard me speak about them, I think it's very fair to say that my view is quite nuanced, and I talk about it in the book a lot. So going with an open heart, and this brings up a point here before I continue to the last section of the book. The best way to read the book is, there's two things. Firstly, is to set a very loving intention before you read the book, because it's written in a way that's very unique and special. So I'd highly encourage you to set an intention before reading the pages to get the most out of it. Second, the way that it's formatted and structured is not like a normal book, and you'll see that when you start reading it. But I bring this up here to remind you that when you set that intention, also set the intention of taking your time reading it and to be with the spaces in between the words. Because believe me when I say, there is just as much value and frequency and love shared with you in the spaces between those words and the words themselves. Which brings me to the last section of the book. And probably if I was to pick a favorite child from this adventure that I expressed in the book writing, it's probably this last section. They're all important to me, but the last section I feel was the deepest, because I was speaking on soul topics, spirit topics. So the first of which was the longest road of all. So I gave examples taught and aimed to help you through the journey from the head to the heart, because that is really where our love frequency exists. It's in all of our being, but we access it most deeply, most profoundly through our heart space. But we first must take the journey from the head to the heart. And a lot of us, myself included, which is what I share in this chapter, there are a lot of roadblocks and challenges and pain and stumblings down along that journey. So my aim with this chapter was to help you through that road, give you, again, wisdom, guidance, practices, tools to help you through that. Once you take that journey from the head to the heart, when you get to the destination of the heart, and this is the second last chapter, you start to awaken to your heart space portal. That's the next part of this book, your heart space portal, and what that is. What does that actually mean? Is your heart just the heart chakra, or is it more than that? Is there something more going on? That is what I discuss. That's what I help you see, that your heart space portal is the grid, the apex or the center of the grid of the multidimensional being that you are. And when we spend time in the heart, we're not just spending time in good feeling emotions and connection, but there is something very mystical and deep going on. And that is what I open you up to in this section of the book. And then finally, the last chapter is your loving divinity. And in this part of the book and the section on the soul in general, one of the big themes that comes up a lot is our separation from God through different kinds of trauma. One of the big ones is religious trauma. And I speak about that in this section of the book. The role that religious trauma has played in our illusion and our pain, how we can move through it, and how what we actually are is divine, powerful, godly, full of unlimited potential already. And that divinity is our love frequency in many ways. And my aim is to illuminate that truth for you, to help you see and feel that. Which again brings up a very important point with this book. When you set that intention that I spoke about a second ago with reading this exploration of love, I would add into your intention, this is a suggestion, to feel the words, feel the spaces, just as much as you think about them. Because your ego and your mind may be saying something completely different to how your body is responding throughout the pages. So I'd encourage you to hold space for all of it. Hold yourself in all that you are throughout the reading, throughout the experience. And that is how you'll get the most out of it. Much like you listen to my voice on this episode right now, how you can have your mind saying one thing, and then your body, your heart, your essence may be saying something else. The book will do the same. So that is a quick little overview of the book itself. I'm excited to hear your feedback for it and how it moves you. Having written the book, there's already more that I could already keep expressing, but I'll leave that for now and finish off this birthing process, and then start tuning into what more needs to be written in terms of other books and other examples of gifts like this. What I want to share now is my experience of writing the book. So I've shared with you my inspiration, my intention, a quick overview and outline. Now I want to share the actual experience of writing the book itself. And I'll start by saying it was quite interesting. If you had asked me this time last year, if I would have written a book, I would have questioned you. And I say question as in, I wouldn't outright think you're crazy, because as I'll explain here in a second, I've acknowledged that there's been a book inside me for a while, but there would have been a lot of confusion around how and the practical side of doing it, which is really what I want to illuminate for you now. So the first thing to point out here is 95% of the book I channeled. And what I mean by that is every single day I set a section of time aside. I would drop down into meditation, open up my channel to connect into my love frequency, open up my cosmic love antenna. And then instead of, I've never been good at directly writing into a document or onto a piece of paper. Instead of doing that, because that's been one of my challenges and one of my obstacles in writing a book up to this point. So instead of doing that, as soon as I got out of the meditation, I opened up a dictating app that I used, and I would speak and channel a section of the book. I would use these episodes that I've recorded with all of you on this show as a inspiration. So I'd pick an episode, pick a theme that I discussed already, and then from there I would channel and just speak, and it would come out of me. And that is how I produced 95% of the content in the book. So I'd keep that in mind as you read it, because I found it quite interesting to do it this way. And not just interesting, liberating, because like I alluded to a second ago, I find it quite difficult to write the quote unquote normal way. So I found my way. And I would encourage you listening. I know many of you have either works you've already completed or works you wish to share with the world in book format, ready to go. And maybe you have the same limiting beliefs as me. Maybe you have the same challenges as me. So instead of following the normal way, I would encourage you to find your way. And maybe your way has to do with the speaking and the channeling and the meditating that I just outlined. In the experience of it, this is why I really want you, because I channeled most of it, and the way that I structured the book, there's a lot of spaces in between the words. So this is also why I want you to take your time with it and feel the spaces, because each of those spaces was intentional. Those spaces were included in the channeled sections that I expressed in the book. So if you hold for time, as you read the book, you'll pick up on that frequency as well. The next part of the experience I want to share is I very intentionally manifested each step. What I mean by that is there are a lot of components that go into writing, publishing, and producing a piece of content like this, from not just the writing of it, but then the editing, the cover, the publishing, the different components. And I was 100% new to all of it. And if I had focused on all of the pieces at first, all at once, I would have never got started, let alone got it done. So what I did instead was not only just focused on the one step in front of me, I intentionally manifested each component as I was moving through it. So what that looked like was every morning in my morning meditation, I would focus in on the feeling of the thing that I wanted. So I'd focus in on the cover that I wanted. I'd focus in on the editing team that I wanted. I'd focus in on the way that I would end up sharing it with people. You get the idea. So part of the experience here, and the tip that I would give all of you that are interested, is take it a step at a time. Focus in on the best feeling component at any given time. And then when I did that, I actually was able to release a lot of pressure. I was able to release a lot of overwhelm and continue to do all the things I normally do and the book at the same time. So I'm not special in this regard. We all have this ability. Another part of this experience I want to share with all of you is I started writing this book last November, and at the time of this recording, it is the start of February. So relatively quick turnaround. But the book itself had been there for a while, and it was finally ready to be released, which is why I feel it was so fast. But a lot of people saw this in me for a long time, my mom included, and some other close friends. And why I share this for you listening is to ask the question, what other beautiful components of love that you deserve to share with the world, your gifts, whether it's a book or something else, do other people see that you've not let yourself see yet? Because if you can answer that question honestly, then there's most likely something that you can step into that will not just benefit your world, but benefit the people that you care about. So it's a good idea to, and again, we don't want to ask everyone because everyone doesn't see us in our highest potential, but ask the people that you trust that do, and start there. And I'm really grateful for my beautiful mother, and I'm grateful for the friends in my life that pushed me to open up this gift and open up this expression of love. final part of the experience I want to share with all of you is, and this goes back to what I was saying a second ago about taking it a step at a time. I also found it wasn't hard. And this is really significant to point out, because if it was hard, and when I say hard, I mean like overwhelmingly, like it feels like I was moving a rock uphill, then I would not have been able to balance it, let alone complete it. Each step that I took felt easy. Each step that I took felt like I was being guided. And this doesn't mean that there wasn't fear and limiting beliefs that came up, and because there's a lot of those, even some right now as I record this session with you in other parts of the book process. But what it does mean is that through the fear, before it, in it, and after it, I felt guided. I felt supported. And that's a very powerful component to look for in all of your life, but particularly if you're doing something like this, because that's how you know it's aligned with your soul path, with your deepest love frequency. I actually talk about this in the book. So I noticed that heavily, the support, the guidance that was coming in, not just through physical people, but through the non-physical, through the spiritual realm. And I guess I'll add one more piece here because it's coming through in this moment to share with all of you. This connects to my experience and where I'm landing with it. I see this now as another part of my external expression, but not something that defines me. And what I mean by that is, while this beautiful book has a lot of my love and frequency in it, my identity is not attached to it. And I share this for myself and for all of you. When we make a creation like this, it's very easy for us to get attached to either how it performs or how it's received or how much it sells, or, you get the idea. But in reality, it's a beautiful expression of us, but is not the deepest part of who and what we are. And I share this because just personally, I could see myself very easily getting attached to the expectations on how it will perform. But what I'm rather doing is setting an open-ended intention to give this as a gift to all of you listening and all of the people that will receive it. And how that gift is received, how that gift is interpreted and supports or doesn't support the people that read it, that is for the highest good of both the individual and for me. And in the meantime, I'm going to continue expanding and expressing and connecting into my love frequency. And anything that comes from this beautiful book is a bonus. So with all that, I want to wrap this up with some gratitude. Gratitude for all of you for listening. Gratitude for all of you that decide to read the book. I'm excited to hear how it supports and impacts you. A bit of gratitude for my own soul and my own voice and my own frequency. I'm grateful and celebrating myself for birthing this whole process and birthing this gift. If you would like to pre-order the book, as I outlined at the start of this show, you can go to cosmicloveentenna.com. I'll also put this in the show notes in the description of this episode. You'll see it in the player. You can go back and click the link. And if you go to cosmicloveentenna.com, you can pre-order the book. It's going to be released very, very soon. I'm still working out the exact date, but very, very soon, I promise. And if you pre-order now, you're actually going to get access to some free and divine gifts that I am going to channel for you extra on top of the book itself. So if you go to the website, put in your name and your email, you'll be added to that list. Each of you will gain access to those gifts. If you're listening to this after the pre-order season has finished, if you go to that same link, you can also just purchase the book directly. It'll be available on Amazon as the main distributor. So with all that, beautiful beings, I hope this found your heart today. As always, I'd appreciate it if you did gain some value and some insight out of this. Please share it with a friend, a family member, a lover. If you have any perspectives, any opinions, any love that you wish to share, please head over to Apple and Spotify, leave it there. You know what to do. But do not just feel and be with what has been shared today. Take action on anything that has arisen and moved through you. As always, I love you unconditionally. I send you so much love and light for your evening, afternoon, and day. Until next time here on the show, I love you very much. Bye, everyone. Before I leave you today, beautiful beings, I'm so excited to share a special announcement just with you. On the 20th to the 23rd of April, 2023, I and a fellow guest of the show, the beautiful Ali Paws, will be hosting live in Tulum, Mexico, the Cosmic Heart Tour. If you listen to this podcast week to week and you resonate with my frequency, with my voice, with my love in any of the topics I share with you, then most likely it is time for us to connect and heal in person. So I invite you to join us in Mexico. Join us for some meditations, activations, yoga, craniosacral therapy, a book release, a live Q&A, poetry, and so much more. These spots are going to fill up super quick because our intention is to make this exclusive and intimate. So please DM me Cosmic Heart Tour on any of my social channels. That's Cosmic Heart Tour on any of my social channels, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and we'll book in a meeting so you can join the love. I'm so excited to connect with you in the flesh. Thank you for listening to the Cosmic Love Antenna with me, your host, Harrison. If you gained value or this episode hit your heart, please remember to share this out with a friend, a family member, or a lover. You can also leave your love over on Apple reviews and Spotify star feedback, and this helps me spread my frequency to more souls in need. Finally, if you want to connect with me deeper, want to reach out, interested in coaching, please follow me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn at Harrison Meagher, spelled Meagher. Sending you so much love.